We've certainly seen the rhetoric being turned up in a major way by both of these men against one another. Let's bring in Lori Turnbull, political analyst. What do you think's going on here, Lori?
Well, I think that the leaders can both see this is an opportunity in the summer when the House isn't sitting, that they're touring the country. They're trying to get some awareness around what their messages are. The Prime Minister can see that the Liberals are behind in the polls quite significantly. And so I think, the cabinet shuffle last week was one step toward trying to put a fresh face on the government. And now we can see him attacking directly the policies, the stances, the rhetoric of Pierre Poilievre. He's going right at who is obviously his central opponent. He is trying to, not only kind of change the face of his government, but at the same time instill fear in Pierre Poilievre. He's trying to make people afraid of what it would be like if Pierre Poilievre was Prime Minister.
It's interesting, too, because it does strike me that Trudeau is on the defensive these days. He obviously understands where things are in the polls. He knows he's been the Prime Minister for, at this point, almost 8 years. And by the time there's another election, it could be maybe 10 years as well. And at the same time, you have Pierre Poilievre, who no doubt has been told there's a bit of an image issue that he's got. So he's trying to be a more kinder and more gentle Pierre Poilievre as well. Interesting to think of the conversations going on behind the scenes by both of these men in terms of their political advisors.
Absolutely, because at the same time as the Liberal government is sort of trying to remake itself, Pierre Poilievre is obviously trying to remake himself too. There is a conversation being had around his image, around how to appeal to people who are not looking at him yet, I think, right? Like if you have already decided that Pierre Poilievre is not for you, you are not going in that direction, there's no way you are, then him making changes to his appearance, showing up somewhat differently, that's not going to affect you. But if you haven't really looked at him yet, if you're still making up your mind, and if you're so tired of the Liberals and Justin Trudeau and you're open to another possibility, the question is, can the Conservatives put up a version of Pierre Poilievre that more people will come to? Because if people are looking for change, an election is not about who's your perfect choice. The election is about who's your best choice. And that's often the strategic choice for people. And so, you might get people kind of moving to one party to try to avoid the win for another party. But essentially, for Pierre Poilievre, the challenge is how to put himself up there as a credible alternative when he knows that people are tired of the Liberals.
Yeah, and just not being Justin Trudeau might help him in the minds of some voters. He also has the advantage, Lori, of all of these so-called pocketbook issues, which affect people on a daily basis in very clear ways. Affordable housing, inflation, grocery prices. I mean, he just keeps hammering Trudeau on all of those things. We can argue how much of the role the Prime Minister directly has in some of that, but no doubt there's this idea that, hold on a second, you're the leader of our country, the buck stops with you.
Right. And so even if the Prime Minister can't totally change all of these things overnight, I think Pierre Poilievre's argument would be, look, if anybody can change anything, it's you, it's the Prime Minister. What is your approach to the affordability crisis? Why is this not getting better? You've been Prime Minister for 8 years. And so at the 8-year point, you can already count on some voter fatigue with both the government and the leader. You get that for free if you're the opposition at that point. But Poilievre is now driving at some of these issues that aren't improving for people, and that, he's making the argument that Trudeau and Minister Freeland just don't have a good understanding of what the affordability crisis is, how it is affecting people. And so the argument is you need to come over to the Conservatives in order for your life to get better. But whether or not people buy that, whether or not he's able to put something in the window and say, we're going to be different, we're going to be better, I think that's going to be definitely the question that he's going to have to answer once we do get into a campaign in earnest, whenever that will be.
Lori Turnbull with her take. Good to see you, Lori. Thanks.
Good to see you too, Todd. Take care.